It's crossing all that. Transition. Hey guys, I'm Ray, and we are streaming blacksmithing. Hello, hello everyone. Welcome to the stream. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Thank you much. Shelly, thank you so much for that subscription. Thank you so much. So today is Monday, and yeah, I guess yesterday was the Super Bowl. I think if I read right, the Seahawks won. I could be completely wrong on that one. I'm pretty sure that they did, though. So we have been working on doing a little bit of a skill checkup. We've been working out here in the shop for about a year now, and when I started, and between then and now, I feel like I've done quite a bit of, good morning, Lexi. Like I said, I feel like I've done quite a bit of growing when it comes to blacksmithing. So when I first started, we did a fork, knife, and a spoon. And so Friday, we started working on another fork just to kind of see how far we've come. So this is the fork that we've got so far. We started with a 3-inch piece of 1/2-inch square stainless steel. So we've got a little bit more of the tail that we need to draw out a little bit longer. I'd like to see it a little bit closer to out here, and we're going to do a little bit of a swirly pattern to kind of create the handle of this fork. And then we also have to separate and draw out the tines on this area right here. So that's what we're going to start doing, is we are going to start working on our fork. And we should be finished with it today, and then Wednesday we'll start on a spoon. But first things first, let's start our forge. We've got an ad starting in about 3 minutes. I'm sure I can start the forge in 3 minutes. So let's get everything all nice and heated. Okay. So Friday was having a little bit of trouble with the mailbox. Let's see. There it goes. There we go. Because I didn't have the burner quite calibrated correctly. So I took a little bit of time this morning and I recalibrated that burner. So hopefully it'll work beautifully and we won't have any issues at all with it flickering. Evening sandwich. Welcome, welcome. So I'm going to start by heating up this section right here. And then half of it is going to go into the tines and the other half is going towards the handle. Let's heat that up. And in the meantime, let me grab, oh, you know what? I totally forgot to put on my full uniform, guys. Let me put my apron on, and then after that, I will put my headphones on so I can hear myself. So, how was you guys' weekend? Did you do any fun Super Bowl parties or watch the Olympics or anything like that? There's been quite a bit of stuff going on recently in the sports world. So, I'm not a big sports fan, but I know some of you guys are. So, yeah, you guys should tell me what you thought about the Super Bowl and some of the Olympics. I heard they did a lot of skiing and figure skating events recently. So, I painted my future apartment with a friend on the weekend. Ooh. That's always fun. I mean, getting a new apartment and settling in. Maybe not the painting and the moving part. Moving kind of stinks. I remember moving from my other house to this house. And I mean, my parents came to kind of help us. And they ended up taking one load and then they had to go home. So we were left doing the rest of it ourselves. Ooh, moving is still coming up. Ugh. Gross. Not to get too technical, but when you say calibrate the mailbox forge, does that mean adjusting the gas and air ratio or the flame height inside the box? So when I talk about calibration, what I'm really talking about is the distance between the tiny tube and the larger tube, right? So inside this, the burner, this big burner, there's this little tube and it kind of goes through this plug, and there is actually a MIG welding tip in there. What is going on there? Need to turn you up a little. So I needed to move the MIG tip halfway into the round circle. I'll answer some of the other comments once this ad is over, because we've got the ad going now. How is our... Should be working. I may end up having to change the propane tank. It seems a little low, even though this is only like day 3. There should be plenty of time on that propane tank. I don't know what the problem is. So yeah, there is a small tip inside of the larger pipe, and the smaller tip is what pushes out the propane into the larger burner tube. And there is a, this right here is a T, and so oxygen gets sucked into the big hole. And if the MIG tip is more or less than halfway along the diameter of the T, it will not suck up enough, or it will suck up too much oxygen, and then it will affect the flame as it comes down. You'll have the moving done by professionals. That's probably a good thing. I mean, like I said, we did a lot of the moving ourselves, and it was so much work, and you know, carrying all of the furniture, and it was exhausting. So it's good when you have professionals to move for you. I'm kind of afraid of the fire. After that lump, you could see me run from that workshop if I were there physically. Yeah, like I said, I'm kind of still adjusting, or I adjusted it, and I'm hoping that I've gotten it correct, but there's still like a minuscule amount that I may have made an error. I think it might be a little bit high. Before, on Friday, the MIG tip was too low, and so it was causing some backflow issues, and it was popping a little bit. Normally it doesn't do that, and so I'm hoping that that last pop was the only pop. If it becomes too big of an issue, we'll turn off of the forge and readjust it. So Corwin, it was fun and busy. Wish I could sleep more. I kind of feel like that's everybody, right? There's never enough time on the weekends. You know, you got to get all of your errands done that you couldn't do during the week, and you got to do something fun, and you got to rest. You know, there's just not enough time. Something has to give, and a lot of times it is sleep. Hey Ping, welcome to the stream. So yeah, hopefully I have readjusted the mailbox properly, and we will get a good flame going. The pressure's a little bit on the low side though, so that might also be affecting it. I'm not entirely sure why the pressure is so low, but I've got on the mailbox, I actually have a pressure gauge, and the PSI is a little bit on the low side, so it might just be that particular propane tank just wasn't all the way full or what. Hopefully hopefully it'll hold out. I do have another propane tank though that I can hook up and use if we run out. Normally we don't with the mailbox because it's super efficient. I'm at the 5th floor here at the old apartment without an elevator. I do not have enough friends to carry all the stuff down, and if I did, there wouldn't be any friends afterwards. Ain't that the truth? I mean, just getting people to help move at all is always a pain in the butt, even when you've got a truck. Like, everybody wants us to help them move, but they don't want to come and help us move. So, we've got a washing machine that we've got on blocks, and we've kind of got to put, or one of the, as the agitator started moving, one of the blocks popped out. So we've got to kind of get somebody to help us with that so that we can wash clothes again in the house. And so it's a pain in the butt. Occasionally we can, we try and manage it anyway. The butler does all of the muscle work, and then I try and move the blocks. All right, how are we doing? We got some heat. But yeah, I mean, I just don't feel like pizza and beer is a good enough incentive to help people move anymore, All right, let's do our first heat. First, I'm going to start the record function on the close-up camera. Make sure it's in focus. It's a nice glare going on from the window. All right. Hey, Dr. Optimal, Mound of Meat. Welcome to the stream, guys. Put that over there. Pizza and beer where? I'm sure, if you'll take pizza and beer, I'm sure Sandwich might take that, or take you up and pay beer and pizza for helping him move. All right, let's get a little bit more heat. Today we are working with stainless steel, so it's pretty darn stiff. It takes quite a bit of effort to get it to move and a lot of heat. So I won't be forging for long durations, and I'll have to I have to make sure that it's nice and hot. You'll have to carry Ray's and the butler's washing machine in understand. Yes, that would be, if you want pizza and beer, you can come and help me carry my washing machine. Although, you mean free exercise? Heck yeah. I don't want to work. I just want to bring my anvil all day. I don't want to play. I just want to bang my hammer all day. Yeah. I'm surprised you're not the one doing the heavy lifting, swinging a hammer 3 days out of the week. See, my problem is that weight really takes it out of me for no apparent reason. Like stairs and weight. I can swing the hammer, I'm getting used to that. But I guess maybe if I were to go and practice weightlifting, I might be able to lift a little bit more heavy things. I feel like the swage block at 50 pounds is like, I can pick up the anvil, like this is 127 pounds and the swage block's 50. I can pick up the anvil, but afterwards I can't breathe. So the butler does most of the heavy lifting around the house. The professionals will not be satisfied with pizza and beer, unfortunately. They want money. I'm sure they do. Pizza and beer is relatively cheap for payment-wise. Gonna run a donkey and a rope when moving. That might work, you know. That's what they used to do in the old days, right? You got like a pulley and, you know, for barn raising and things like that. That's what the butler is hired to do, is move around stuff. Sometimes, usually it's camera equipment that I get the butler to do for me. But I mean, when we're fully loaded for our travel vlogs that we do, that's actually about 50 to 75 pounds of equipment. So it's the camera, and then in the backpack there is a tripod, some lights, a bunch of cabling, all kinds of craziness. So it gets really heavy after a while. Let's do another heat. Getting a little bit of heat in there. More heat. New business, donkey rentals for the savvy mover. Batteries and cabling and sturdy tripods, yeah, that adds up. It really does. You'd be surprised how heavy some of the bags of equipment that the butler carries on a daily basis. Because even if it's just not me, you know, I always have like really light equipment for the butler to carry, but their day job, they're like carrying lights and things too. So, yeah, I see it's easy when I have them do things. So I was scrolling through Facebook the other day, and I came across this Facebook group, and I think it was called something about spoons. And the whole group was rating spoons and the texture and the feel of the handles and like the bowls. And they're like the spoon people, right? So I will tell you right now that the design I have in mind for this fork and the spoon, definitely not going to be spoon people approved. The handle is going to be really long, but we're going to do some like squiggles and some curves and things to kind of imply a handle, but there's going to be lots of gaps, and it probably will not be the most functional fork and spoon in the world, but it'll be pretty. Yeah, he's doing a whole portable studio some days. He really is, because a lot of the commercials that he does they're like on location, right? So you have to bring the lights, you have to bring the cards, all of the cabling, the cameras. Sometimes it's like 3 or 4 cameras and large amounts of lights, all of the sound equipment, monitors, because of the clients oftentimes they want to see what things look like, and teleprompters, all kinds of stuff. Is this going to be a salad fork? It might be, I don't know. I haven't quite figured out how long the handle is going to be. Usually the type of fork comes down to how long the fork actually is. So I feel like the salad forks are the dessert forks are the short ones. I think the dinner forks are the longest ones, and then the salad forks are middle-sized, if I remember correctly. It's been a really long time since I actually looked at table settings. So, I don't know. It might be a salad fork. We'll see. It might also be like a dessert fork, you know? Or, you know what? It's only got 2 prongs, so it's probably going to be more like a like a cocktail fork, right? Because the cocktail forks, when you like pick up the shrimp and stuff, they only have the 2 prongs. Have you ever done a large fork, like a pitchfork? I've never done a large fork, but we did do a grill fork, and that was about yay long. And that one was actually, the butler took it to be featured in one of the commercials. So I haven't seen the final commercial yet to see if it got cut out or not. But last I heard, there was a little shot of my fork in that commercial. So as soon as I can, if I have the final version of the commercial, I'll see if I can't post it on the Discord. A fork is a fork for me. Originally, medieval forks only had 2 tines, and that's just because, or going back to the roots of forks. Well, like really, it's a lot easier for a hand-forged fork to only have 2 prongs, right? Because you cut the tines in half and then you move one out of the way so that you can draw out the little, like, the length and thin it out, right? Well, if you've got 3 tines, it makes it a lot more difficult to draw out the length. So a lot of the 3 and 4 prong forks that we have modernly are actually punched out of sheet stainless. So this is a hand-forged fork. It's a little bit different. All right, let's do another heat. But first, I think I'm gonna change the angle just a little bit. Not a lot, but a little. You might be able to see the camera in the main shot. Whoops. Let's see. Needs to be a little bit further back. Maybe not. Maybe I'm not going to be able to do that. Okay, there we go. That's a little bit better. I don't know that you'll be able to see the camera in this shot. I think it might be close enough. All right, let's do one there. Okay. We're gaining a lot of length here, and we're getting a little bit of isolating out where the tines are. We're getting there. I want to thin out a lot of this right here, this section right here. And so it's all one thickness. And then that's right there is where what we're going to develop the tines out of. So we're going to have some pretty long tines. This might actually become a salad fork. Yeah, stamp forks, and they bend so easy too. They do bend really easily, but that's because they're relatively thin. Like I said, they're stamped, so, out of the sheet, you can only get so thick of sheet before you have to upgrade your punch, right? Forging nails are better than modern wire nails too. Yes, because you can work harden them. Forging the steel kind of hardens the steel a little bit. So a lot of times nails these days are kind of extruded into a mold, and then they're stuffed in there for the head. So they aren't quite as strong and stiff, or I guess hard, as the blacksmith equivalents. You can still buy hand blacksmithed nails or hand forged nails. But they tend to be a little bit more expensive per nail than the manufactured ones, obviously, because they're hand done. I personally am not a big fan of making nails. We have made some on stream, and that's pretty much the only nails that I've made. I don't know, maybe we'll do some more nails at some point in the future, but for now, the ones that we made, those are the ones we're gonna do. So yeah, we are thinning out the handle of this fork. I want to get a little bit thinner handle, and I want a lot of length because I want to do like a squiggly pattern. And I need enough material that when I start scrolling the handle, it's not going to get too short. I need to keep at least enough that you could actually, grab the fork and use it. Have you ever tried your hand at horseshoes? No, I have never tried to make a horseshoe. I mean, I've worked with horseshoes before, like already made ones, but I've never tried to make one. I never really had that big of an interest in it, mostly because I feel like it's useless for me to make one, because I don't know the medical, because when you're a farrier, you have to understand the medical needs of the horses that you're shoeing, right? And when you're making a horseshoe, you have to keep those in mind because you make different shaped horseshoes for different issues that the horse deals with. So a race horseshoe is going to be different than a draft horseshoe, is going to be different than a horseshoe where, the horse has a medical issue. So there's a lot of different things that are involved in farriering, and I didn't go to school for that. The Amish blacksmiths around here are the only ones I know who do them. There are a few farriers in my area. I live outside of St. Louis, Missouri, so within an hour on the Illinois side. And so there are a few, because I do live in a farming area, there are some farriers around here, but you really have to have an education in order to do that. Whether it's an apprenticeship or a degree program, you don't just make horseshoes, if that makes sense. Yep, the shoes match the horse to the task, yes. I also don't think that I could handle a horse that had like an abscess or a cracked nail or any number of different horse ailments. I'm not good with blood. I'm not good with gore. I can deal with my own because I've had to so many times throughout my life, but I don't do other people's gore. More power if you can, like, doctors, nurses, EMTs, those types of people. I mean, thank you for your service, but that is not me. I could not do that. I was just curious if you had done one for fun as an experiment or something like that. Not really. I do more art things, I feel like. Because I came to blacksmithing from an art background. I've said before, I started as a silversmith and a jeweler. So I've taken a lot of the silversmithing and jewelry techniques and I've kind of put them into my blacksmithing. I do a lot of furniture. I also, I've done casting and sculpture, like large scale sculpture. So that's kind of where my brain goes. Horseshoes just seem, they're very technical, but they're not quite as artistic in a traditional art sense. There is an art to them, but you wouldn't find one in a modern museum, if that makes sense. I could make ornamental ones, but I leave that for other smiths. All right, I'm gonna do another heat. Like I said, we are going to be thinning out this material. I don't think I'm gonna, yeah, I think that's probably the best place for that. It might be up. Let me do that one. No, that's not a good either. That was probably the best part. Trying to figure out the best place for an inset is tricky sometimes. Man, my hammer control is awful today. All right, I'm gonna get some more heat, but we're gonna turn this over this direction, backwards, so that I can focus in on thinning out the length of that. We've got a lot of thickness up here and not a lot down there. I want to get a lot more length. I'm having consistent issues here with our forge. I think what I'm going to do is, all right, so I think what we're going to do is we are going to flip the propane tanks. I've got another one that's got some in it, so we're going to flip it. If you can see other people's thoughts in very beautiful artistic way, are you an ornamentalist? I mean, probably. You can see pretty art from people's minds. I mean, you'd at least be a little bit psychic, right? A mentalist. Let's close that door a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna change this propane tank. It's not coming out of here very well. So we're gonna try and see what we can do to get a stronger tank. I feel like there should be a lot more in this. It feels pretty darn heavy, like pretty full. I don't know what the problem is. All right, how are you? Those are pretty empty. That one might be. This one is probably the best one. Let me hook this up real fast. Apologies. I thought it was being clever. Like I said, I only actually used that tank for 2 days, so I'm not entirely sure why it seems pretty empty. It does seem like a pretty old tank, so I don't know. All right. Okay. Let's try this tank. Uh-oh, time for the bathtub, maybe. That's probably going to be a good thing, but I didn't prepare one today. Need some magnetic stickers that say old, new, or used to snap on them. I do. I definitely do. All right, yes, I'm getting a lot more pressure already. A lot more pressure. But yeah, I definitely need another, or like some system. Like normally what I do is the oldest ones, go closer to the door or like the outside door, and the newer ones go a little bit closer to the forge. They always are like, you know, at least 10 feet away, but you know, sometimes one is a little bit heavier than another. Yeah, that is a lot hotter and a lot more pressure. Forges are the kind of people who only work under pressure. Very much, very much. Very much like me as well. Put empty ones upside down. That would probably work too. That's a good idea. Then I wouldn't have to remember which ones are which. I just like dump it upside down. Although that does not work if there's a leak in the valve. So we are in the middle of an ad break. Once this ad break is done, we'll do another heat. Hey Blue Red Metal, welcome to the stream. I hope you're not stuck in ad purgatory. Procrastoforge, for those who only work under pressure. I feel like that's totally me though. I come out here a lot, like on time, because I know that you guys are waiting for me, and that's a little bit of pressure. I mean, I don't have to have a lot of pressure, but some pressure. And then there's also the pressure of being in front of the camera and not wanting to look like an idiot while I'm talking and, you know, being on camera. So there is a little bit of pressure here. Nope, I have a subscription. No ads for me. Awesome. I feel like a lot of you have subscriptions right now. Or at least Nitro. All right, let's do another heat. Now that the ad is over. I'm doing a lot of the stuff on the face of the anvil, or I mean on the horn of the anvil, so I'm hoping that by putting the inset on the heel, you guys can still see. See if I can't pick this up. See, it's already brighter. Ugh. I am totally gonna lose this piece because it's not being held in these tongs very well. Keeps rolling. These are like the only tongs I have that are like able to pick up the teeny bit. No, actually, that's a lie. I'm gonna grab a different set of tongs for the next heat. I have another set of tongs that are better. I worked on my PhD thesis for 11 years. Need I say more? Ooh, 11 years, that's a decent chunk of time. Where are they? I know they're in here somewhere. Are they these ones? No, they're not those. I don't think they're these ones either. Where are my good tongs, guys? Are they on the floor? A lot of times I drop them on the floor and I just leave them. There they are. They are on the floor and I did just leave them. That is bad. I need to clean up after myself. I found them. These tongs should be a lot better. These are V-groove tongs, and they're kind of a universal size, so they should work a little bit better than those ones. Those ones have a lot of like wiggle in them. These are a bit better than that. The floor is a storage space too. Yeah, it definitely is. All right, these should be good. All right, so our next heat I'm going to do on the face of the anvil, we're pretty much going to be flattening out all of the lumps and bumps that we've been collecting on the horn of the anvil and making sure that everything's nice and trued up. Eventually we're going to round out the tail, I think. And from there, what I want to do is I want to start working on the fork tines. I don't want to decorate the handle until I've got a good tine setup going. So the next thing that we're going to do is move the camera. Now I will say that I actually was thinking ahead today and planning ahead. At least I was trying to. And in that, what I did was I already put the angle grinder, like the cutting disc on the angle grinder. So yay, I actually did something for once. I don't have to worry about it not fitting or not being able to get it off because there was a flap disc on there before. So I actually did something, like, you know, some planning for once in my life. I mean, I feel like I do some general planning. Like I have several projects in a list, and I kind of just like check them off as I see when I want to do them. But I have a tendency to do a lot less in the immediate planning, you know, like the right before the stream planning. All right, let's do another heat. I'm going to put it right there. Hence the, you know, wrong sort of propane tank problem that I just ran into. I don't know why. I'm having some really bad control issues today. All right. I'm gonna blame it on neither one of my tongs are holding this thing very well. That's what I'm gonna blame it on, at least. It's probably just me because I just have terrible hammer control, but you know. We need to get you a 4-pack of grinders so you can have every kind of wheel equipped and ready. Right? That's what Lexi does. But I also am like, if I'm gonna spend like $40 on angle grinders, I could buy a polisher, you know, like a bench polisher. It's kind of priorities, you know. Where to put the money, when, you know. So yeah, we're gonna start cleaning up the handle a little bit. And then once we've got a relatively clean handle, what we're going to do is turn it over and start working on those tongs. Couple more heats on the handle. We're still pretty early in the stream, so I'm actually making pretty decent time in comparison to what I thought we were going to be doing. It was kind of a pie in the sky hope that we would finish this sport today, because I just don't trust myself anymore when I am estimating how long something is going to take. Or you could try the Bosch X-Lock system, no tools needed. Interesting. I don't think that I've actually seen that one. They have Dremels that work that way, but I don't think I've ever seen any angle grinders that way. That would be interesting. All right, let's do another heat. I want to thin it out this direction. We're going to focus here. This side is pretty decent, but I think I'm pretty happy with it. I've got enough material to get a couple of waves in there. I might actually do a little bit more tapering on this end here so I can get a nice scroll at the end. And I'm not going to like finish this just yet. We're just going to clean it up a little bit. I need to have some nice corners for me to be able to hang on to this while I'm working on the tines, I think. Yeah, same system, just different size. Bosch owns Dremel. Oh, okay. That makes sense. There's also a couple of different like hole saw bits that have an interchangeable system where it's like you have a drill bit in the center and then you've got a hole saw around it, right? So you can change the size of the hole saw, and you can just buy the hole saw itself and then it fits on the little like drill, which theoretically works pretty good until you're trying to hole saw something that's a little bit harder than wood, because it's a really nice drill bit. But if you take the temper off of it, you know, you've kind of lost your system, right? Yeah, I have the Diablo version of that. Hole saw, that is. Yeah, I've had Diablo, and what's the other one I had? I can't remember what the other one I had is. I think it's like the Home Depot version. No, it's the Lowe's version, because Diablo is Home Depot, I think. Yeah, the bimetal bi-blade gets cooked fast. Yes. So, like, I actually killed my first one by drilling the hole in the forge, right? Because I was actually drilling into brick, right? So it said that it was rated for steel, bricks, and wood. And it worked beautifully, but it ate it alive. It did not, that was the only hole it ever did. Cobalt is Lowe's. Yes, it was a Cobalt one, I think. Pretty sure it was Cobalt. All right, we're gonna do another heat. You know what? I'm gonna move that inside there. I pulled out the tool rest on the mailbox specifically because I thought it would be convenient. It's not. It's being a pain in the butt, making it very difficult for me to get the steel out of the forge. All right. So, the plan is actually to increase the length another inch, inch and a half. So we're going to do that by thinning the whole thing out. But before I do that, we're going to flip this around and we're going to start working on the tines. So the next thing that we need to do is flatten out this section right here. And then we're going to use the angle grinder to to separate the two tines. So I want to lengthen those out and create the fork before I want to mess with the handle. That way, I should be able to cut it off or manipulate it in other ways if I feel that I need to later on. So the first step is to flatten out the block that I have saved for those tines. That makes it a little bit easier for me to cut them in half. But yeah. So, let's see. I don't know. So, this weekend, I spent a little bit of time having some fun. A lot of times I end up doing mostly just chores over the weekend. So I ended up spending a little bit of time out here. I had to kind of make sure that I had the trivet ready to go. So I worked on that a little bit. So the trivet actually works now. So you can see the legs and they've all folded out, and then the legs now, they all fold in. So we've got a nice trivet here and they fold out. So it's ready to clean up just a little bit more. I got to run it through the wire wheel, but it works pretty well. I can't really set it down on the anvil so you guys can see it because of the degree that it sits there, but it does kind of sit on its own. So we did this weekend, and then what else did I do this weekend? Did a little bit of cleaning. But mostly we went and did some walking in the mall, which is, always a temptation to buy things when I'm walking in the mall, but I was able to resist this time. Is it fair to estimate to stay stainless, takes twice as many heats to work compared to mild steel? That or harder hits? I mean, I don't know that I would say twice as much necessarily, but it does take more heats and a lot more pressure. Like I said, it's a lot harder, so you have to, and it doesn't retain heat as well. So overall, it's just harder to work with. It's not as bad as the A2 that we work with. It's somewhere in the middle. But yeah, I would say it takes quite a bit more effort. I don't know that I am comfortable saying exactly 2 times though. All right. We'll do another heat using that, and then I think what we're gonna do is move the camera one more time, or again after I take this heat. because I think after this heat we will probably might be the heat after. I might take 2 heats for this process. All right, so we've got here is like a lot thinner. We've thinned that out about, I don't know, not necessarily halfway, but maybe 2 or like 2/3, or I guess 1/3. We have thinned this out by 1/3, but we've given ourselves a lot more area this way, or width, so we should be able to cut the steel in half. So I'm going to take 1 more heat because I want to clean up the transition between the handle and the tines and make that a little bit nicer. Oh my gosh, your tiny forge is adorable. I want one. It is adorable. It's so efficient as well. Most of the time, that is. Most of the time. So I can actually use a barbecue tank on that forge for probably a week. Whereas it's usually I can only use it for about 3 days on the big forge. So yes, it is super fuel efficient. It heats things very, very well. There is a back panel that I can put on it. I don't have it on now, but there's a back panel that I can put on it, and it makes all of the heat stay inside of the forge, and I can get it up to welding heat when I do that. I have an NC Whisper Mama tank lasts 3-ish days. Yeah. Some of them are really efficient, and some of them are a lot less efficient. One of these days, I will eventually upgrade to a larger tank size too. Right now, I'm only using the barbecue size tanks because I can just exchange them by myself. I don't have to get the butler to help me, and the bigger ones, they start getting a lot heavier. And I just don't want to rely on the butler being home every time I need to change it. So we do the barbecue for the moment. Did you make the tiny one or buy it somewhere? I bought it. Well, I didn't buy it. A friend of mine bought it and gave it to me. It was purchased from an UMBA meeting, which is Upper Midwest Blacksmith Association. The artist who built it and was marketing it at the time, I don't necessarily know that he's still active. He was relatively old when I bought it, and that was about 10 years ago. And I'm not, I hope he's still around, but I don't know if it's still available to get anymore. It is made out of a single fire brick. So I can't give you like the specifications for it, but I can tell you that it's everything is around a single fire brick, and it's relatively simple in design. All right, let's do 1 more heat. Like I said, we are going to clean up a little bit on the transition. Oh, it's one of those hollow brick forges with a shell. That's awesome. Yes. My main forge is also a brick forge, but it has a lot more bricks in it. All right. So the next thing that we're gonna do is we are going to cut the two tines apart. This is gonna be a fork. So we're gonna take the angle grinder down the center because it's gonna be a lot cleaner than if we were to use a chisel. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up the camera. That way you guys can see what I'm up to as I fight the cable for this camera. I need to put the swage block away. I have it in front of my camera desk or my laptop desk, and I need to actually put it back. It's like I need it for the spoon, but I'm not there yet, you know? Okay. So we've got a good camera angle. Workout time. Something like that. All right. We've got a little bit of a oblong area. I need to flatten out the side edges. We've got a little bit of an angle. So we're gonna heat this up one more time. We're gonna make the sides parallel and then we will cut it. Apologies. I thought we were I thought we were already ready. So what I am going to do is I'm going to get everything else ready so that all I have to do is change the camera angle. So we'll unplug the air compressor, stick that there, and we should be good to go right there. Alrighty, we have an ad coming up in about 2 minutes. When that ad is done, I will do my next heat and I will hopefully go from that heat directly to cutting the tines apart, and we should be good to go from there. Parallelization must be done. Yes, because if I cut or if I separate the tongs right now when I have an angle, so the edges of the fork they're not parallel like this. One edge is like this, right? So if I just cut the tines apart right now, there will be more material on this side than this side, which means that when I draw out the length of those tines, one will be longer than the other, and we want the tines to be symmetrical. Otherwise, they won't function properly. So we need parallel edges before we separate the tines. I thought that I had already done that, you know, that I was a little bit more careful. Then it turned out I was. Get ourselves a little bit more heat. We only have about 30 seconds left before the ad timer counts down. Left or right-handed fork? It's leaning that direction, or I guess it's leaning towards my right hand. One longer tine. Yeah, it would be one longer tine. So I think it depends, because it depends on what side I bend it, right? If I flip it over, then, you know, the left tine would be longer, but if I flipped it the other direction, then the right-hand tine would. So, you know. But it is a parallelogram, just not a rectangle. Yes. Hammer out, then trim the length. I mean, that's true. I just, I figured I would make the sides parallel and then, because they're probably going to end up being two different lengths anyway, but if I start a little bit more symmetrical, then it's less work later. So, I don't know. But yeah. Add time. So like I said, once this ad is over, we will make the tines, or I guess the block that is going to become the tines, a little bit more parallel, and from there we will cut those tines in half. I think it's just going to be one long scene. She didn't want one being 3 inches and the other 12. Something like that. Something like that. This is supposed to be a skill showcase, guys. I'm a little bit more skilled than I used to be. Probably not that much, but a year is a year, right? All right. I need to update my outro, I think. It's been quite a while since I've updated it. All right. Let's do our heat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the steel out of the forge. We're going to true it up here on the anvil. And then I'm going to change the camera angle and it'll go right to the post vise and we'll cut them in half. The fact that you were caught, or you caught that, means you have skills. Not catching it wouldn't. 1 year plus now, yes. You will have to cut down the long one at one point. I mean, you're right, I will. Hopefully I don't make a long one, though. That's the whole point. All right. So we're going to go wide shot to make these two sides parallel. All right. Nice and parallel now. Or I guess as close as they're going to be. All right. Is the video choppy or was that me? It might be choppy. Sometimes it does that to me. Sometimes it does that to me. All right. I forgot to put my mask on. Here we go. Better. Alrighty. So so we've separated those tongs, so now we got to heat it up and move one out of the way. Whoops. I know, angle grinder sacrilege, right? It's cleaner that way. It's cleaner that way. This reminds me of the fork project. Well, that's good because it is a fork project. A tool is a tool. I mean, you know. We've got a nice angle grinder. I think that was, yeah, the emote, the angle grinder emote. Lots and lots of sparks, guys. That's part of why the angle grinder is so much fun, right? You get all of the sparks. All right, so I'm going to move the camera so that you guys can, now that we are done with the post vise, so you guys can see me move the tong out of the way, or the tine out of the way and whatnot. And let's focus. Okay. I'm not doing too terribly many fun angles today. I'll try and do a few more. Sparky the angle grinder. Yes, exactly, it's Sparky. I used to name all of my tools so that, you know, I knew what I was referring to or which tool I was referring to. But then I got too many hammers and I kind of stopped after that. Okay. Let's do this. I think I'm going to put it right there. Okay, so the first thing that we got to do is move one of the tines out of the way. And it usually takes me a few attempts to do that, because reasons. Okay, back in the heat. And now that we have them kind of separated, we are going to be able to thin the tines out and kind of create, you know, your two fork prongs. So the next thing that we're going to be doing is we are going to be drawing out the fork tines. That fork is looking a bit wide and, well, missing some teeth. Yes. So this fork is only a 2-tine fork. And the reason that we're only doing a 2-tine fork is because it is a lot easier to hand blacksmith a 2-tine fork than a 3-tine fork. Like I said, or like I just did, we moved the tines out of each other's way. Well, if there was a third tine, it would make it very difficult to lengthen and thin out those tines. Yeah, I am going for 2 tines today. So a lot of the 3 and 4 tine forks that you see in stores and restaurants, they aren't hand forged. They're actually punched out with a machine. So it's a lot easier to punch them out that way. I mean, I could theoretically make a 4-tine fork if I moved the outside edges like this way, maybe. I don't know. I've never attempted it. I'm sure I could if I Or I'm sure someone could if they set their mind to it. I'm not sure that I'm skilled enough yet. Wouldn't it be a toque? 3 tines are a threek, and 4 tines are a fork? Maybe. I don't know. It's kind of like an hors d'oeuvre fork is kind of, the style that typically, this would typically become. Although the hors d'oeuvre forks are usually like yay little, this one's probably going to be a little bit longer than that. I didn't even know they were called tines. I mean, to be honest, I don't know if they're called tines. That's what my parents always used to call them when I was growing up, like the fork tines, because when I was a kid, I used to bend the plastic fork tines and they got mad at me, and so that's what they're like, stop bending the tines. Pointy thing, a fork, trident, fork. They are tines. Dr. Optimal says they're tines. I might be right, I don't know. Just follow the times right. I do know that on a pitchfork, for like moving hay around, those are called tines, and that is the technical term for those. So I guess it just got ported from one of the or the other. Probably tines in UK English. I mean, maybe. The pointy bits on the fork are properly called tines. Okay. Me and Tommy did a fork and a spoon competition at Quad State in 23. Of course he took the spoon and stuck me with the fork, right? The fork is a lot harder, in my opinion, than the spoon is, I think it takes longer, too. Okay. All right, we're gonna grab a little bit more heat. You can see that we've actually gained quite a bit of length from just that single heat. Let's see if I can actually get this in the mailbox. As we go, it's gonna get harder and harder for me to put this fork back in the mailbox because it's so easy. Yeah, just for different spelling is all I was saying. Harder to stick someone with a spoon. I mean, you never know, right? I've seen some pretty gnarly spoons that look like they could be stabby. Tine, Middle English, from Germanic Frisian, tine equals prong. Like I said, I wasn't certain, but that's what my parents used to call it, so I just assumed. It's also what my grandpa used to call the tines on the pitchforks. Alrighty. So once we've got some nice length on those tines, we're going to have to spend a little bit of time in the center trying to clean up the U in between the two tines. Right now it's a little bit messy because the tines weren't all the way separated. So we shall see what we can do. See, Ray's parents are wise. Yeah, it applies to forks, large and small. Something like that. All right, let's do another heat. I have learned throughout my time streaming that I'm not always right when it comes to names of things, and sometimes different cultures name things differently. All right, this one's a little bit longer than that one now, so we need to focus a little bit on this one. We also need to draw out more length. I'm curious to see if I'm not gonna have to, or if I will end up working on the horn of the anvil, because, and I will eventually, because right now they're starting to get longer and it's getting harder, and I should just be able to bend them around the horn now. I think they're long enough, I should be able to do that. I have to admit, stainless can be a bit tough to move. It is, but it is also a lot more food safe and a lot easier to take care of than if I were to make this in mild steel. I think I would have been able to finish the fork on Friday completely if I had stuck to mild steel. It's a little bit softer and a little bit easier to work with. It's also fun to have a little bit of a change of pace every once in a while, you know? It's a lot less stretchy. All right, so I think I'm gonna move the camera over to point a little bit closer to the horn, because I think that's where we're gonna get our most success at this point. As I try not to pinch my fingers on the tripod, because reasons. Okay. All right, I think we're all right. Okay. All the things, all the things. Okay, let's try this. Are you going to pickle or anything to remove the scale? I will be grinding the tines and using a wire wheel for the most part. I don't necessarily know, or I've never actually used pickle for steel, because steel ends up plating pickle, or like all of my pickle has copper in it, and it would end up plating it copper if I tried it. These are really, really thick tines right now, so it's going to take me a few heats to thin these out. Yeah, of course. Just comparing to high carbon steel, I try to make knives. And the one time I tried to hammer a rose stem from stainless steel, or a stainless steel rod, and man was it hard to move. It felt like it was on par with 5160. That stuff is hard. Copper plated stainless steel would stain. Yes, yes it would. Need to get that puppy nice and hot, nice and yellow. Yes, I do. I do. I get a little impatient. Is it cold there by you? Yes, it's definitely cold here. So around here, it's like in the 30s, like the upper 30s, lower 40s. And in this shop, it was recently in the 20s, so it hasn't quite gotten super warm in here yet. I know the feeling. I hate sitting and waiting for steel to heat up. Yes. So yeah, I mean, it's a little on the cold side. I've got 2 layers. I got a sweatshirt and another sweatshirt over top of it. So I get cold. And the steel doesn't stay hot very long, especially the stainless. But I could definitely leave it in there longer, you know. I could use some extra time, I think. Ray seems to live in between cold and heat. I do. I have 4 whole seasons in this area of the world. We have fall, spring, winter, and summer. Not in that order, clearly. I think we do, you know, we do winter, then spring, then summer, then fall, because, you know. Yeah, I was just about to say, that must suck to have the steel lose heat so quickly. I mean, it does, but that's also part of working with stainless, right? Stainless does not hold heat nearly as well as mild steel or even carbon steels. Gonna try to get more outside work done. Thanks for the stream and making good progress. Thank you, mahalo. Hopefully we'll see you later. Don't hurt yourself. Alrighty. Let's do another heat. I think we've got plenty of heat in my steel. Hey, Rabbit Scotsman. I am doing pretty good. I am doing pretty good. We are in the middle of making a fork. So I'm working on the tines right now. Trying to thin them out a bit. They're still a little on the thick side and they're wide out there. So we're gonna have to spend a little bit more time, a couple more heats. And I think we are definitely gonna wanna trim these guys because they're starting to get about the length that I want them to, but they're definitely about twice as thick as I need them. I would love to have your weather. It's like 32 Celsius by me, and I have a coal forge at the moment. Gets so hot, and soon to have a 3-hour or a 3-burner forge. I'm dreading the heat from that bad boy. Yeah, I get, like in the summer, I get super hot here too, because I am just below the jet stream. So, well, when I grew up in the northern section of the U.S., we never got higher than like 90, 95 all throughout my growing up. Here, we get to 105, and those are Fahrenheit, I'm sorry, temperatures. So pretty darn hot. And then, you know, when you get the big forge running, it's just like super, super sweaty. It's like I used to sweat through my clothes all the time. I mean, I still sweat through my clothes all the time in the summer. But yeah, I mean, I've got the little forge. It doesn't generate nearly as much ambient heat right now. The big forge does. I still have to actually load the bricks back in here. Right now, I got the big forge up. Yeah, 105 is insane. I mean, you know, you get used to some stuff, you know? My grandfather used to work in a semi-truck, like as a semi-truck mechanic, and his shop didn't have heat or cooling. So in the winter, he just could not get warm, and in the summer, he just was constantly hot. So I kind of feel like I'm a little bit better off. I have a giant industrial fan that I can work with. Old Snuffkin, thank you so much for that follow. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the community. I hope you're having fun. But yeah, it's kind of like perspective, and you know, I feel like I have it a little bit better than my grandpa. Just a little. 105 Fahrenheit is 40.5 Celsius. That's pretty high. Pretty warm. Howdy from Japan. Japan? That is quite a long way away. Welcome to the stream. I think that's like, what is that? 14 hours difference, I think, if I remember correctly. I had a friend who was in the Navy and was stationed in Japan for a little bit. I think he said it was 14-hour time difference. So, good morning. Early morning. Stream is a bit sticky. I imagine it is. I apologize. Let's see. We're dropping a few frames, but it just bopped back up. I don't know why. Like, it's my internet, right? I'm having a little bit of internet issues lately. Today, normally it takes me about 20 minutes to upload the VODs up to YouTube, but today, it took me an hour and a half, so that was double the time. So it must be like it must be slow today for some reason. Apologies for the buffering. I've considered wearing no shirt while forging, but then again, I have to remember there's all the flakes flying around from the coal forge, and when those things land on you, yeah, not fun. Definitely not fun. I've gotten enough burns from scale on my hands. 105 Celsius would be impressive. Just put your pot with potatoes and water on the windowsill and wait. You know, sometimes that does happen. You know, you can do that in cars, you know. You can cook brownies in the car windshield. I am going to wait until this ad ends before I do my next heat. We've got about a minute until it starts. Same. The battle scars of fighting with the forge. I have a couple like right here in the crease of my elbow that I've had those scars for like, I don't know, 6-8 months. They just are not going away. But yeah, once the ad is done, I will, I'll do my next heat. Like I said, we're going to continue thinning out the tines. I have a little bit more to do on the handle as well, as far as thinning it out. Then we're going to do a little bit of scrolling so that we can make a nice, pretty handle for this fork. I considered no shirt, but I'm heavy. It's always the arms, or worst case, the foot. See, I wear leather steel toe boots, so I barely get anything on my feet. I have before set my shoelaces on fire, or like back in the day before I had a set of steel toes, I did melt a pair of shoes once. But I try real hard to be a little bit more careful with my feet. I can't really do much about the hands, though. Hands are another story. If I can't wear gloves because I'd be throwing my hammers everywhere. All right. All you have to do is never get burned, or to never get burned is forge naked. You instantly become a ninja. I mean, yeah. Definitely. Propane's being a little bit finicky because it's getting low. Is that the only thing you've set on fire? No. I've got a lot of stories about setting things on fire and people on fire, but I'll refrain from telling those stories until the ad is up. There are gloves with sticky pads. There are, but like the gloves with sticky pads, a lot of them are made of synthetics, and they would melt to your skin if you got anything on them. You got to be a little bit careful, you know? So yeah. I'm going to grab a drink. A drink. How are we doing on our... Okay, only a couple minutes. All right. So yeah, we've got about an hour left in the stream, so we should be able to finish this fork pretty easily. Within that hour, I'm pretty excited. I actually, I hope at least, if the propane lasts. No drinking in the forge, young lady. It's only water. I'm not the worst when it comes to that. I'm not the worst. All right, let's do another heat. Man, I've seen some people. More heat. There we go. I struggle to drink water. It tastes horrible. I became a blacksmith. Helps me drink a lot of water. Wow, that lost heat super quick. It did, didn't it? My anvil is kind of on the cooler side. And as we get thinner and thinner, we're going to lose heat a lot quicker. So yeah, that's kind of how things are, unfortunately. Have you considered using coal for smaller projects? I have. However, I talk way too much to rely on coal. Because if, like, right now, I have this habit of just, like, talking to all of you guys. And if I'm not paying attention, I'll just burn my stuff, right? I do have a coal forges over there, but I don't have a flume for it. So I need to get something to get rid of the smoke. Otherwise, because I'm indoors right now, I'd smoke myself out. I tried it at one point and it just did not work. I literally wear shorts and sandals in the forge here though. If I get burned, so be it. Unless I'm forge welding, then I wear one pair of pants I brought with me to Australia. I mean, you know, I've seen people in like Eastern countries. I think maybe Pakistan and like India, and they forge in sandals, you know, and barefoot. And I mean, that's not me. I use Bitmus coal. Yes, I do. At least for the moment. I don't know where I'm gonna get my next bundle of coal yet. The coal, or the place that I was buying my coal from, shut down, so I have to actually go and find a coal drop. But I think the closest coal drop to me is a BAM coal drop, the Blacksmith Association of Missouri. So I gotta figure out where their closest coal drop is before I am able to use more than what I have. I use anthracite, pretty smokeless, but man, the clinkers are rough. That's what I've heard. Anthracite is often used, or at least it used to often be used for like heating homes and businesses. Bitmus coal it burns a lot cleaner for blacksmithing. So that's why I was able to get a hold of it, because it was blacksmithing coal. But like I said, the place that I used to buy it no longer exists. So next time I need coal, I will have to find someplace else to get it. All right. I've got some heat. Let's do this. Oh, come on. There we go. It helps when you actually grab the correctly in the tongs, guys. It helps. Woo! I'm gonna grab more heat before I fix that. I've kind of flattened out the little points, so I need to like thin those out quite a bit, and then we should be good to go. Do you have enough space and access to scrap wood and logs to make charcoal? I could probably find some place. There are many, many tree trimmers around, and I'm sure that if I wanted some, I could get a hold of some. But I haven't actually gone after it, I guess. I live in a very residential area, so surrounded by houses. So the bitness would probably not be good for me. As much as I would love to use it, an induction forge would be amazing, but cost of electricity, yeah, not happening. Yeah, I use mostly propane forges because, you know, it doesn't create any smoke. And as long as I keep the window on that side cracked and the door on that side cracked, I've got a nice cross flow, and so it doesn't burn up all of the oxygen in the air. Sometimes I open the garage door behind me just so that I've got lots of ventilation. But I do kind of live in a more rural area. They just tore down 2 houses on that side of me, so there's a huge field on that side. So I don't have to worry as much about the smoke. I start with a wood fire and burn it down to charcoal. It does small, amazing forging with eucalyptus. Huh. Interesting. I don't have access to that, but that would be interesting to play with. So, yeah. Like I said, there's a lot of tree trimmers around here, and we get a lot of storms that bring down trees. So there's a constant supply of wood around. So you can find firewood year round at like gas stations and grocery stores and things like that. A lot of people will use it for barbecue grilling, but I feel like I would need to find a more direct supply, because I don't want to spend uber amounts of money at the grocery store, because they always mark it up. Eucalyptus is probably as common there as poplar is here. I have to wear a mask, the one with the filters, when I forge, as for some reason the cold gives me flu-like feeling in the throat, that rough irritation feeling. Yeah, I have a lot of issue too. Because normally I always forge outside, right? When I use coal. And when the wind is blowing the wrong direction, I have to wear a mask so that I can get rid of the particles in the air. I do have an industrial fan, and we do set it up so that it will blow the smoke away from me. But unfortunately, a lot of times I have to be really careful, because it also will end up blowing towards the anvil, and it cools down the steel way too much. But it's difficult because I'm streaming live, and so in order to set everything up so you guys can see it all, sometimes it's not as efficient as it could be. Let's do another heat. So we have 40 acres of trees that have died from bushfires. 3 species of gum and ironwood. Interesting. But I mean, you guys had super fires very recently. So I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked. I'm gonna have to bend this side a little bit, because I got a little bit of weirdness going on. We've got a diagonal angle there, and I need to fix that. So I'm gonna heat this up. We're gonna move that out of the way and fix that side. That's a lot of wood. That is a lot of wood. But yeah, there was that huge fire a couple years ago in the Australia, or like all throughout Australia. Is that what happened, or is that where the destroyed trees came from? That would be my guess. So once we fix these tines, I think I'm probably going to leave them at that. I will probably grind them a little bit skinnier, just because they are a little bit on the thick side. I have a really bad habit of leaving things really thick. But I think we're going to flip the fork over, and we're going to start working on the handle again. All right, let's do this. This block burned in 24, but not last year. Closest bushfire since I got here was about 1 kilometer. That is really close. I would not be thrilled by that. It is spinning in my grip. That's amazing. All right, another heat because we got to fix that. We're getting close. Very, very close. I have an issue of making things too thin, especially tongs. Geez, do I battle with making tongs. Yeah, like I said, my problem and my issue is leaving things too thick, right? Like I made this like hairpin and it was huge. And then Corwin sent me that hairpin and I'm like, ooh, it's so delicate. I feel like I'm gonna break it. I bought a dump trailer a few weeks ago, so I'm thinking of just buying a couple ton right at the mine. See, that's smart, right? There's like I said, the best place for me to find coal is in Missouri, because Missouri does, like, there are several guys in the Missouri Blacksmith Association that will that they go directly to the mine and they buy entire truckloads and then they just sell it by the 50-pound bag, you know, and part of that money goes to, you know, reimburse the smith and part of it goes to BAM, you know. Don't even get me started on tongs. We know you hate making tongs. Instant tongs or welding on the reins. That's what we do. It looks like I'm having some issues. Can you guys hear me? Am I dropping frames or is it just being dumb? I think it's just being dumb. I can't even get a leaf keychain right now, but I'm new to blacksmithing. A lot of coal comes out of PA around Pittsburgh. That it does. There's also a lot of coal in the Midwest, Illinois and Missouri. I'm back. Okay, cool. Yeah, I do have, like, it looks like I'm unstable. But I'm doing my best, guys. I'm doing my best. All right, we've got really long tongs on this fork. Really long. So we're gonna flip this over and we're gonna start working on the handle again. See if I can't hold this correctly. I don't know if I can. We'll see. Yeah, I'm not a big tong maker. It's hard to beat out some of the nice commercial brands out there. That's so true. The reason I end up making so many tongs is usually because I start a project and then I realize I don't have a proper set of tongs. And so then I immediately have to go and make a quick set of tongs. And then that ends up taking the entire day, and yeah. I should just buy a vast array of different size tongs. But, you know, money. And I have stock laying around, and I don't actually mind them. All right, Lexi, have a great rest of your day. We will see you later. Thank you so much for hanging out. Got to go to town this morning. Hey, Bubba. Welcome to the stream. Welcome, welcome. All right. I'm going to move the camera and then we'll get started. We don't have terribly much left to do with this fork. I want to thin out and lengthen it up just a hair towards the end so that I can come up with a decent decoration for the handle. I'm always really bad at making things thin, so we're gonna try and do that. Nice and thin. All right, let's do this. I think we're gonna go over there. Probably. Woo! Drop forged. Definitely a drop. All right, how much length we got there? That's a pretty decent amount. Dropped again, man. We're starting to get to the point where it's going to be harder and harder to hang on to this guy. All right, what'd I do with my... There it went. But we're going to take a look at how long this guy is. We are 10 inches total, and the handle is almost 8 inches. That's probably where I like it. I want it a little bit longer so we can get that full 8 inches. And then we're gonna do some scroll work. So we're gonna focus in on the end here. So I'm thinking we're probably gonna scroll the side, give ourselves a little bit more of a question mark, but like, I have an idea. We're gonna do something a little bit, what do I have I can draw on? Give me just a second. I haven't been using our board recently for a while because we were out in the other end. So I'm going to erase this and I'm going to show you guys kind of the design I have in my brain a little bit. So we've got our nice tongs, or I guess our nice tines. So I'm thinking that maybe we'll do something a little bit like so. We might want to put a few little like wiggles in there, depending on how much extra material we have. So that's kind of, we're gonna start with a scroll at the end, and then we're gonna see how much extra length we got, and we might put a few squiggles in there to kind of make it a little bit shorter and give us a little bit thicker of a handle. So yeah. Okay. Let's try this. We've got about a 1/4 inch left that I need to make out or make up. And we're gonna do that by cleaning up the end a little bit. Before we start the scroll. All right. I think we're pretty good. So we are going to drop this again. A few times, apparently. We're going to start a scroll on this end. Sideways. A sideways scroll. So all we got left is decorating, and then we will be done with this fork. Ready to go. It's pretty exciting, actually. Pretty exciting indeed. We've got about 30 minutes left. I think that's plenty of time for the decoration. I'm gonna put these nice and handy. These are my scroll tongs, and these are what we're gonna use to put in the little squiggles. If we end up needing a little bit of extra, or if we need to make this a little bit shorter. So do you actually sell any of the works you make? No, I don't, because I cannot efficiently work out here in the forge. And I don't think that it would be fair for me to charge by the hour, which is normally what I would do. But I spend so much time talking to you guys that it just wouldn't be fair. I mean, this project, I've already put in almost 5 hours. So it's just, you know, it's not worth over $100 for the single fork, you know? So it's not fair. Okay. So we have an ad coming up. We'll do a little bit of this scroll, and hopefully I'll be finished before the ad starts. But yeah, I don't think it's fair to price things fairly for myself and, you know, to charge that much. So we're going to start a scroll. If I can start a scroll, that is. Man, hanging on to this thing is becoming a pain in the butt. I'm going to heat that up again. Apologies for, you know, taking an extra heat just to start a scroll. But that's definitely an example of, you know, it's definitely an example of why I don't sell anything that I make, because like I said, it just takes me stupid amounts of time to make really simple projects, and I just don't find it worth it. You could paint it gold. So if someone wanted to buy an item, would you let them as support? I mean, I have the drop counter. It's there that you guys can use. I don't know if it's been reset today. Let me reset it real fast. So yeah, we have the drop counter. It's there. So yeah, it is there. If you would like to support me, I do have KoFi, where you can donate money for propane. And if you do donate money for propane, I will shout you out on YouTube and on Twitch the next time I buy a new propane. So tomorrow I will be shouting out someone for a new propane tank that they helped me purchase. And then there's also, you know, just watching or, you know, subscribing, bits, and there are many ways to support me. I don't think selling my work is something that I'm interested in right now, if that makes sense. maybe someday when I've been doing this for many, many years and I can bang something out real fast. But yeah. All right. I have no idea if the ad is going to pop up or not because it was there and now it's being, oh, there it went. Are you newish to blacksmithing? I just assume you had many years experience. I have been blacksmithing for 11 years now, but they're not continuous years, and I learned how to do it from YouTube, so I've learned so much more from people than I ever learned from YouTube, so I feel like I'm relatively new. So, I don't know. We learn, we grow. So yeah, once this ad is up, I will do my next heat. We're gonna try and do that scroll a little bit better. Let's see if I have another set of tongs that maybe I can use and make them a little bit easier. Are these gonna be better? No, probably not. What are the best tongs gonna be? These might actually work. Nah, I think that'll flip on me. Let's try these. I'll put them both here. So yeah, I mean, I'm not completely new to blacksmithing, but I feel kind of new because, you know, I make a lot of mistakes here on stream. All right, let's try this. Yeah, I have about 11 years experience blacksmithing, but a lot of that was learning from YouTube. And I don't know that that, in my opinion, counts too much. I'm a lot better as a jeweler. All right, more heat. We're starting to get there. That set of tongs is working a lot better. So we'll put these tongs away and start using those other ones. So yeah. But yeah, I don't know. One thing I struggle with is what to do, or what do I make? I have to run around on the net looking for ideas and templates, and I cannot seem to think of things to make. And my brain isn't really made for designing anything. Like I said, I started as more of an artist, a sculptor and a jeweler than a blacksmith. So coming up with the ideas is a lot easier for me than executing said ideas. A lot of times I bite off a lot more than I can chew. And yeah, sometimes it becomes a disaster and sometimes it's pretty fun, you know? All right, let's do a little bit more of this scroll. I've done 2 axes so far, and those have been quite the endeavor. Quite the endeavor. we're starting to get there. I want to put to put a little curve right there so that the eye is a little bit more central along the fork. And let's see, if I put my hand like so, not so that I'm touching it, definitely higher. See, you can see that it's a lot higher. I need to make it's about the right length, I think, maybe. We'll see how long it ends up. The more you do and look at things, it becomes easier to take objects and put your own spin to them. That is a very, very true. I mean, I look at things all the time and I try and put my own spin to them. Sometimes they're more successful than others, but you know, I'm the kind of artist that if I'm trying to learn to do something, I have a tendency to pick the hardest thing I can think of using that technique, just so that I stumble across the most problems. And yeah, sometimes it's a big disaster and sometimes it works well. I would hope so. I'd hate to be a copycat all my life, especially being a blacksmith. Hey, there are so many blacksmiths out there that make a good living just doing the same thing over and over and over again. The classics. You can make you can be a decent and a good blacksmith and just do the basics. You know, hooks and nails and just the normal stuff. You know, you can do that. You can elaborate if you like, but never say that, you know, it being a copycat is bad. People like what they like, you know. Stuff, or the classics, they sell, you know. There isn't much out there that hasn't already been done. Exactly. It's so true. There's nothing new under the sun. All right. Let's try and do a little bit of flair on this. Pretty decent. I want to move that a little bit further that direction, but I'm pretty happy with that so far. One or two more heats and I should be done. Isn't it wrong to copy someone else's work and sell it yourself? I would say ordinarily in your classic art, you know, your modern art and whatnot, but blacksmithing is more, there's art in blacksmithing, but there's also craft in blacksmithing, right? You're not going to yell at someone or yell at two different manufacturers for making a similar looking fork or microwave, or there's just brands and their microwave. A hair dryer from one company and a hair dryer from another company, they work very, very similar. It's kind of, there's a utilitarianness to blacksmithing. It's always good to try and iterate and make things your own, but there is nothing wrong with just copying people's designs. And a lot of people put their designs out there specifically to be copied. And, you know, there's no shame in that. Now, if someone's like, oh, this is my special baby piece of art, please don't, you know, that's one thing. But there's a lot of, yeah. But there is a lot of leeway in that. A lot of people will just give you plans and be like, make this, it sells. Well, I saw someone make a cat statue from angle iron, and I thought it was pretty cool, but I'd hate to steal his design and sell it. I mean, do you live next to him? Because, I mean, if you live next to him, then maybe it's your, you know, your direct competition. But, like, you know, if you live across the world, you're not really in direct competition with that person. You know? 90% of what you will see, they learned from someone else. Yes. Like, none of my designs are wholly original. I took them from someone else. Like, and it, you know, it's understood in the blacksmithing community that it happens, you know? There's only so many ways to make a nail, you know? Now, I'm not saying that you should go and, like, copy someone's art print or anything and sell that as your own, but in blacksmithing as a craft specifically, a lot of times, you know, people won't mind you ripping off their design, you know? There's only so many ways to efficiently make a hammer. I guess as long as you don't go around claiming it's your work when it's truly not. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? You can claim that you made it, you know? It's like, I made this hammer, but I didn't make the design of the hammer. It's just a hammer, you know? There is a fire truck that just passed. I live near a fire station and a police station, so a lot of times, yeah. It's when you start copying elements of artistic expression that I think it starts to toe the line. Yes. I would say that. I don't make my living blacksmithing, so I don't have as much vested interest. I feel like most of the blacksmiths out there who do make their living as a blacksmith, they don't really mind, to be honest. I mean, I don't speak for everyone, and I'm sure that there are some people out there who do have a problem with it. But overall, I've never met anybody that wasn't willing to share their designs, you know? All right, I think we're pretty good. Make everything nice and flat on that one side. And I think that's pretty decent. Pretty nice fork design there. Needs a little bit of cleanup. Definitely needs to grind the tines a little bit. This one's a tiny bit longer, but that's because it's a little bit thinner. So I'll need to grind that a little bit and run it through a wire wheel. But I think we're about where we want to be. Let's see. I don't think that this has any potential scoop, so I don't think I need to really bend it. So I think I'm pretty well done. If I can't stand it up, I don't think I can, but that's all right. I'll stand it up later. But yeah, that's it. Forks are harder than they look. They are, aren't they? Being a perfectionist, I think that tail can go in a little bit more. I mean, yeah, but I started with a really thick tail. I've noticed a lot of things on Etsy are exactly alike, but hand forged. Might be from a cheaper labor location, yes. A lot of times, have you ever tried to taper the tines before splitting? No, I have not. I have not at all. That's not how I learned how to do it. But then I learned how to do it from YouTube, so, you know. I mean, you know. Like I said, I stole the design for the tines of my forks. Also, you know, my spoon bowls. So, you know. But yeah, I think this is what we're gonna do for the day. And it's definitely different than my previous fork, the last fork that I made. And I think it's better. So I'm pretty happy with what we made. But yeah. I'm not criticizing you, giving you another method. Oh, I did not take that as criticism at all. I hesitated because I was trying to, in my head, picture how that would work. But yeah. I think that I would have to watch a video or watch someone do it in order to figure that one out. Yeah, I didn't take it as criticism or anything. I was trying to picture it in my head, how it would work. And I imagine that you would kind of end up with like a triangular shape almost, maybe? John Swetzer does the tapering before the splitting a lot. I'll have to check on one of his videos. John Swetzer is on YouTube as Black Bear Forge. He has an amazing series of videos where he goes through all kinds of different projects. They're absolutely gorgeous. He's an amazing smith. If you get a chance, check out his work at Black Bear Forge on YouTube. So yeah, I'll have to check that out if he does that. But yeah. Thank you guys all for joining me today. I've had a blast. I hope you guys have as well. So I will be back on Wednesday. We are going to be making a spoon to go with this series of silverware. It'll probably be pretty similar to this guy. I will be starting with a piece of 1/2 inch by 3 inch long piece of stainless steel, and we're gonna make a spoon. Look at one of his heart hook videos, for example. Okay. Yeah, Black Bear Forge. Love that guy's videos. But yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you guys on Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining me. All right. Let's see. Who do we want to raid off to? Is there anybody who's on? All of our friends are on, I'm sure, are they? Thank you, Ping. All right, I think we're gonna do Miramac. Let's raid off to Miramac. Thank you, Shelly. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you on Wednesday. Bye.